Marty Clubb, who's the owner of L'école number 41, has a very interesting new project called Ferguson. It sounded to me from his description as if he won the lottery, but I'm curious to ask him to tell the story of how this came about, how it was originally an offshoot from Seven Hill Vineyards, and when did this all transpire? Who's involved in these projects?
Right, okay. Well, we've been fortunate, as you know, to be part owner in Seven Hills Vineyard, which is the oldest vineyard in the valley. It's on the south side of the valley in Oregon. And
we're talking here about Walla Walla, obviously.
Yeah, the Walla Walla Valley. And so we've been making wines from Seven Hills since 1993. We actually became a partner in the project in 1996, 1997.
And who are the other partners in Seven Hills?
Norm McKibben from Pepper Bridge Winery, Gary Figgins from Leonetti, and then those two wineries plus L'Ecole are the only winery involvement. We do have a couple of partners. One, a guy that works with Nelson Irrigation, who has been really tremendous in helping us do state-of-the-art deficit irrigation management in the vineyard sites. So what happened was there was an adjacent piece of ground next to Seven Hills that it was kind of a triangular piece that would fit perfectly into the vineyard. And we wanted to buy that property, and it was owned by the Mormon Church, and they were not exactly interested in selling to us because we were making wine, and wine, of course, has alcohol. And but we found out quietly that they were interested in selling all of their property, which was like 1,800 acres of dryland wheat, and we bought that property from them silently and quietly. In 2004.
This is at a somewhat higher altitude than Seven Hills.
Yeah, so Seven Hills actually sits at the base of this project. Now we refer to the project as Savain.
Right.
And Savain goes from about, say, an 1,100 foot elevation on up to 1,500 feet. So in terms of elevation, it's perfect. And as you move up the hill, you begin to get out of the area where the Ice Age flood silts were. Those floodwaters crested at about 1,200 feet. Mm-hmm. So you get a really changing dynamic throughout this whole Savain project, from the really elegant, textured, pretty aromatics of Seven Hills to the density and the structure of the higher elevation vineyards planted up in fractured basalt. So each of the partners took a vineyard as part of their development in this project. Ours, named after my wife's parents, Gene and Baker Ferguson. We planted the vineyard in 2008 and 2009. We've only planted about 18 acres so far, but we have the opportunity to expand that to 42 acres. And the vines are actually growing in what is called fractured basalt. And basalt is hardened molten lava, so it's very rich in minerality. There's a lot of iron and magnesium in this, and as the basalt weathers, that exposes it. So in between the crevices and the cracks, there's kind of an iron-rich clay that we think adds to the backbone, the tannin structure of the wines. And we're certainly seeing that the wines from Ferguson are amazingly dense, powerful, dark fruited, kind of espresso toned characteristics, but it's the structure of the wines that we're really excited about. And for a young vineyard, it's showing lots of promise.
And what do you have planted there?
Right now it's all Bordeaux varieties. Mostly we have a couple different clones of Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot. We also have some Cabernet Franc and Malbec. And our expansion plans include more Bordeaux varieties. We'll add Petit Verdot to that mix, but we'll continue to expand all 5 of the major Bordeaux varieties in the vineyard. And I think we will play with about 5 acres of Rhone varieties just for fun.
Now, you mentioned that you bought massive acreage for cheap because it didn't have water rights. And then
Well, we were fortunate. We bought dryland wheat ground. It did not have water. We also applied for permission in Oregon to drill for water. We did take a big gamble because we drilled down essentially to sea level through basalt. So we were drilling,
Right.
through all this, and so we didn't really know for sure that going that deep would hit water. But fortunate for us, we hit a rather big vein of water, and that has allowed us to develop what will become a new 1,600 acres worth of vineyards. And in addition to Lecole and our Ferguson project, we have Leonetti with their Serra Padace project, Double Back Winery with McQueen Vineyard and Bob Healy Vineyard. JM Cellars in Woodinville has their Margaret's Vineyard. We now have Betts developing vineyard property, Willamette Valley Vineyards developing vineyard property. And when it's all done, this project will double the size of the wall.
Wow, exciting.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And with great potential, again, for mostly Bordeaux varieties, would you say?
I think that's where the key interest is. I mean,
Right.
There are some producers that are looking at their own varieties, but it's clear from our track record with Cabernet Merlot, Cabernet Franc, that hillside has got a lot going for it in the Bordeaux lineup. And so I think the majority of the plantings will probably be in that direction.
Now you're close to the rocks, but the rocks
So the
is
rocks
a totally different geological formation.
Yeah, so the underlying part of the rocks came from the same source of basalt, but cobbled riverbed, and it's very dense, and so it's literally the alluvial plain of the old Walla Walla River.
Right.
So I think that because of that changing texture of soils, you get into a little bit more darker fruit, funky toned, earthy characteristics in the rocks. It's a very unique site. It's got a lot of potential, but it's very different from Sylvain, which is the rocks is the valley floor. But Sylvain is now up on the hillside. So we've got
Right.
this beautiful air drainage and this mix of soils from windblown loess to ice age flood silts to basalt.
Right.
So it's very rich in minerality.
And the rocks is more appropriate for Syrah, probably.
Probably. There is some successful Cabernet being planted, but the big direction in the rocks is in the Rhone varieties.
Right. Great, thank you.
Thank you.